In your opinion, does gender equality already exist or are we still a long way to go? From the salary gap to the modern dating market, from social media to sex education, all the way to the European Parliament. Join us to find out. Young men are moving more and more towards conservative and also far-right ideas in relation to the past. Why, in your opinion, this is happening?
There are some sociological explanations, but I would like to ask you and your viewers, what the fuck is going on? I don't mind conservatives, I mind fascists. 11 million nudified pictures of women and girls without their consent in 1 month. This is what women who are in public life, who dare to have a voice, who dare to speak, this is what we're facing.
Our guest, Abir Al-Sahlani, is one of the European Union's most outspoken voices for human rights and gender equality.
This debate is both factually and morally wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong.
Of Iraqi origin, her family fled persecution under Saddam Hussein regime, while today Abir is one of the most important voices at the European Parliament with Renew Europe. Thanks to her courage and determination, she won the Best Speech Award in 2024 and is being recognized as a leading voice for millions of women across the Union. Abir, is gender equality in Europe becoming a reality or are we far from achieving real gender balance?
Well, I think that we have made historically many good steps forward. Of course, you cannot deny that more women are being more powerful, are being more liberated, having more and more human rights implemented. But of course, when you look at how we are being rated, we just only have 71% out of 100, for example, when it comes to general gender equality. But when it comes to economic equality, then we rate 21 out of 100. So of course we have a lot of work to do, and it's manifested in the gender pay gap, for example. It's manifested in the autonomous right to decide upon our own bodies, the last human right remaining, as I always call it. But in many aspects also when it comes to representation and how willing politics is to address the modern problems that we have with gender equality. For example, when, if you remember during Christmas, when Grok AI started to make nudifying pictures of women and without their consent. And these modern challenges to gender equality are not always addressed as quickly as one should be thinking they should, but it takes more time. So, of course, also politics sometimes, depending on how the winds are blowing, if it's to the right, then it takes longer time. If it's to the left, then it takes a shorter time, but then it is very not precise. But if it's in the middle, then it's good when it's a liberal solution.
And talking about numbers, you mentioned economic inequality, but if you have one figure that is very close to your heart to convey to the audience about the issue of gender equality still lacking for women, like one thing that you should mention.
11 million nudified pictures of women and girls without their consent in 1 month. Remember that.
11 million.
11 million. This is what women who are in public life, who dare to have a voice, who dare to speak, this is what we are facing.
But these are nudified pictures that are created with AI or real?
With AI.
With yes. AI. Okay. That's also, are progress being made here or it's totally wild at the moment?
Of course, the European Parliament adopted legislation where we want to prohibit this kind of functions within AI that is used in our market. But will platforms apply to this? Will they work with this? And what about the global scale? Now we have here, we can at least hold people, we can hold platforms accountable, but other places, how do we do that? And of course, I will always say that we are not free until we are all free. So even if we might make progress in the union, what about the other women then?
Outside, okay. But there I think like the power of the platform, for example, like Meta, because there is also a profit interest behind those things, no? Because they go a lot of clicks. Do you think, for example, in the US they will make concession there in the current environment?
It doesn't look like that with the tech bros and this bromance they have with Trump.
Exactly. So,
But I mean, if men do not take their responsibility in this shit, I don't think that we can achieve any change, actually, because it's about changing the norm. It's about changing how men think about women's existence, about their presence, about about us taking space, having a voice and saying that voice, speaking with that voice.
yeah.
If men do not take this responsibility to change the norm within the male culture, it's very difficult and it's time demanding, consuming with legislation only.
Yeah.
Yeah. To which degree do you think that actually more of a cultural change is necessary than actually a political one?
Of course, I mean, patriarchy is a culture. And the way that men think that they can dominate women, the way men think that they are entitled to a woman's body, this is what you have to change. And this is what men have been inheriting as boys since the day they are born. And their fathers inherited from their fathers, and so on and so forth. So it will take time, and it is a cultural change. It's a change of values and norms. But of course, you have to correspond with that with legislation.
Yeah. But do you feel this is still the case here in Europe, that little boys are growing up with the sensation that they are entitled to a woman's body? Or
of course, rape statistics shows that. The domestic violence statistics show that. You have all this research showing how young men aged under the age of 25 think that women have to obey men. The influence of the MAGA movement in the US is totally here, and it is being amplified by the far-right parties. Now they have a political representation saying that, women have to obey and we are not entitled to decide upon the womb area, because suddenly it becomes everybody's business. So of course.
Yeah. And there, one of the issues as well is that young men are moving more and more towards conservative and also far-right ideas in relation to the past. Why, in your opinion, this is happening? Like, is there a sociological explanation, in your opinion?
There are some sociological explanation, but I would like to ask you and your viewers, what the fuck is going on? I mean, we've never been so rich. We've never been so well educated. We've never been so stable as we have been. Why?
For me, like, I think one of the issues is that men are struggling, I would say, in the dating market more than in the past, because women are becoming more independent. So this is, I think, is driving frustration that then goes channelized by conservative politics.
But why do you have the notion that a woman has to be dependent on you? Isn't it more like interesting when you have an independent person that you can have a conversation with? Why this notion? Why this picture of a relationship where you have someone who is a provider and someone who is dependent? Why not two independent, creating a new whole?
No, for sure. But what I'm saying is that, like, maybe
I'm gonna hit this microphone at some point.
Think about it as the conservative
Exactly.
process, so you can...
I don't mind conservatives. I mind fascists and racists and sexists.
No, but what I was saying is that, like,
Yeah.
I think it's the way in which traditional society, unfortunately, has worked under many aspects, like, so I think there is still some cultural heritage there, and applied to the fact that then with women becoming more independent, you lost this role of provider. I think it created a lot of
So we
alienation.
have only given men one role. And I think that we should consider men as humans. They have many roles that they can actually fill. Not only, the hunter who goes out and hunts for meat. We have vegans, for God's sake.
Really, that's insane. But I think it's indeed probably a question of relative standing in society, because probably men grew up with a certain belief system or a certain certainty that maybe they're the provider, they are earning more than women, and they see themselves maybe caught up by
Entitled.
reality. possibly, but I think it's a question of relative benefit in society, and maybe many men are now getting afraid that suddenly they're not the only game in town anymore.
No, so they have to find new ways. Wow, so revolutionary. I know it's scary.
Yeah.
But I mean, women have been doing this for ages, and the thing is that men have been giving power, privilege, access without even have to fight for it. Okay, they went out on wars, and were soldiers. So okay, I understand that, but we stopped having wars 70 years ago. So yeah.
How is it now in the European Parliament? How do different political forces stand to this? Do you see a realistic chance now to make progress in this mandate on gender
You
equality?
have to be really, really hardworking and build alliances and find new ways to push forward. And you have to accept some losses. And I think that the feminist movement is not used to that yet. That certain things that we have won, but we have to fight for again. And I always say that every generation needs to fight their own battles. And we need to reinvent both feminism, gender equality terminology, and democracy for every new generation. Because what was important to me might not be important for the younger girls. And I totally accept and respect that. And I think that the ones who are coming after me, they will have to fight different fight and recreate, reshape, redefine what are their challenges and their priorities. But I think that every generation will have to go through this.
But on the other hand, there are some fights that I think has been conquered in the past, but now they are indeed representing again, like for example, abortion. Like in the past, it was almost like a granted right in Western society, but now it's being heavily debated again.
Do you think it was a granted right, or was it in some societies and others not? And now where it has not been, now they are louder? Because I always compare it 10 years ago when I was member of the Swedish parliament. I saw these, very shy, very, shady people standing with their big placards where they have these aborted babies, pictures of aborted babies, bloody, and like we are against abortion. And they were really not so loud. But now they are elected. They sit next to me on the negotiation table because they have political representation. And I think it's important to say that this did not come out of nowhere. This is, a movement that is well organized, well coordinated, well financed. That is now also having, they are getting more and more powerful in all the European institutions, in the Council because they're winning elections on the national level, in the European Parliament because they've been elected, and you have it also in the Commission. Of course, people will sneak in.
But in terms of finances, in your opinion, if we think about the financial power of budget of association, do you think pro-abortion association have on average more access to finance and support?
No, actually there are numbers by the European Parliament Network for SRHR, where they have found out that the anti-abortion movement, they have 3 times the money of what the European Union is putting on when it comes to SRHR.
And this is a kind of a paradox, no? Because so often the non-progressive movements have much more access to financial capital than progressive movements.
Yes.
Why?
Why? Oh, that's a good question. How come? Because, first of all, they don't believe in transparency. So we don't know where they don't say where the money comes from. So it's much easier to finance them. While progressive movements, they have so many demands on, where the money comes from or how they spend it, and they have to have this and that and all these demands. While the others are actually not dependent on public money funding, on public funding. They have this private, and also the research shows that the money are coming from the Catholic Church, for example. It's coming from the US. It's coming from Russian oligarchs, from the Russian state, from some aristocratic circles here in Europe. So, and they don't need, I mean, they're not transparent. They don't show where the money comes from.
And who finances the progressive movements then? Who is interested?
Well, public money for the most of it.
Which is scarce.
Which is very scarce, and there is a huge pressure on it at the moment. For example, we see it in the development aid, where, I mean, we know that there is an increase of 400% in conflict-related sexual violence. And, I mean, who is the victim there? It's women and girls and children. But the real funding, for example, to women-led organizations is like something like 0.7 of the entire official development aid. So it's crazy numbers in, you know, it's like, what is scarcity? Why are we doing this? And if you just ask yourself a little bit, okay, you were raped in a war zone, you are not going to the army to seek for help. You're going to go to a women-led organization that can be there and provide, you know, both medical services and maybe help you get an abortion if you have an unwanted pregnancy. And for these organizations, we only like put 0.7%. It's crazy.
Yeah, and
when you have the increase of 400%.
Yeah, no, because considering this number, the trajectory from a public debate perspective, it looks, I mean, you cannot predict with certainty, but if there is such an imbalance in funding, anti-abortion movements will get more and more consensus, also on social media, among public opinion.
Of course, and you see it in many countries. I mean, in my own country, Sweden, now we have election campaign coming, and the conservatives, together with the far right, they are saying that you have to choose. They are saying to the public that you have to choose either you have development aid or you have defense, as if they were in a conflict with each other. And this is where they're heading. They are scaring people off with this, you know, always conflicting of interest. But at the end of the day, if you don't have stable states around the globe, you don't have freedom, if you don't have democracy, if you don't have climate resilient states, you will end up having these problems coming to you. And what is the answer then? Oh, higher walls. Okay, and how high would we build them? And whose money are we going to use? From where do we take them? From school? From medical care? Where do we take this money from? Because we already put all the money in defense. And for God's sake, I mean, how many defense systems can you buy with development aid money? Not many, I can tell you. Defense is fucking expensive.
Yeah, but yet this argument is intuitively, it makes sense, you know? And that's why I think people buy it.
Yes.
Like you say, you have to choose where it's a zero-sum game. You have to choose either it's defense or it's development aid. So the real question is, you know, how do you fight back?
How do you fight back?
With a different narrative.
You have to make people understand that they are not in conflict, but rather if you have good development aid that is effective, that is going to the right things, and that you can follow up, and that is giving real results, then you will not, on the other end, need so much defense money. Because we have created a world where we are really scared of each other. It's like, boo boo, this is coming, boo boo, this is coming. And how far are we going to take this? Of course we have to defend ourselves. Of course we have to be prepared, because not everyone believes in our model of democracies, of being free societies, of having, you know, human rights for everyone, of loving who you want, of being who you want. Of course, not everybody shares this. And of course, they are targeting exactly that system. They are not targeting us as individuals because we are so important. No, they are targeting what we stand for. And believe it or not, we are back at the levels of, when it comes to democracy, when you measure it back to the 1985 levels. So even though we are going to spend more on defense, but what are we defending? Is it only borders? Is that only the only thing that matters? Or are we willing to defend also our values, our systems, our principles? Because these are the ones that are targeted.
And I think one key issue there is that in a context of an economy of attention on social media, the explanation on development aid, for example, it takes more time than just saying you need to choose between development aid and defense. And since people have really few time that they take on social media to read news and to understand things, of course, there is an imbalance in the
But
political
people are
debate.
not stupid.
I mean, I'm not saying this, but what I'm saying is,
But you cannot explain everything on social media.
as well there.
That's why you have this podcast. It's longer, where you can actually develop ideas, and I think people want to hear a fresh take on things, and people are tired of being afraid.
How this topic of standing up for your principles, gender equality, how did this develop within yourself, the passion for this topic? How is it connected to your own personal story?
Oh God, how long time do we have?
We have a bit of time.
Okay. No, but when you go through something bad, like really bad, something that reshapes your life and your mentality and your point of view on life and things that is happening, you have a choice. Either you become angry or sad or depressed, and with all right, you can do that. I mean, totally legit choice. Or you promise yourself that I'll do everything I can so not other people have to go through this. And I made the later choice. I decided not to do everything I can so others do not live what I lived through.
Do you want to share what it was?
Oh my God, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I mean, the exile bit of it is not easy. You see now how migrants are being portrayed. We are always villainized. We are always the villain. We are the problem with everything in Europe, apparently, and in the world. You see, being a woman in public life is not easy. Can you imagine being a woman not in public life and not having any kind of protection? Being subject to racism, being subject to war, to have to survive a war as a child, it changes you. Being raped as a child, it changes you. It gives you different kind of perspective to life. But once again, I think that you have a choice. You can make either, and they're both legit. I don't want to say that, we have to everybody fight. I understand that not everybody can do that. Then you will need the people who have not lived that to actually to be there and to protect you.
And then I think the craziest thing is that even in a country like Sweden, which until a couple of years ago everybody was saying was the model of democracy and human rights, it's also made a turn to the right, and a clear turn to the right.
This is what fear does to people and societies. Fear of the other. And it is so utterly stupid, because when you scratch us, we are all the same. We laugh at the same stupid jokes. You see a man fall, you will laugh. This is your first reaction, huh? And then you go and help. You see a child heartbroken or in pieces because of a bomb hit that child, you will cry, you become sad, and we all react the same. So we are all humans, but fear. This is what it does to societies.
Yeah, and I think across history, fear has always been exploited politically, and there, because it's a strong emotion, it drives a lot of engagement, either positive or negative, and it's easier to sell, for example, than a rational explanation. So what I wanted to say before is that, how do you think progressive movements can be selling the other argument in a sketchy and simple way as just being populist and selling fear? Is there a possibility?
We have also to become populist. Why aren't we populist? Why aren't we making our messages easier to understand and comprehend? I mean, why do we have to take the long way? Why? This is one of the things that I always battle with. It's like, just explain it, write out. You know, it doesn't need to be so complicated. This is the first thing. The second thing, we have to actually ask ourselves, why do people feel that democratic systems have not delivered? Because people are questioning this. Because fear, together with feeling not content, feeling not heard, feeling not having real opportunities to fulfill your dreams, to achieve the dream life you have, together, they create this discontent that makes you take the right turn, you know, the turn to the right. So I think that we really need to have a good look at ourselves. And sometimes I get really tired. I'm very pragmatic, by the way. I'm not so like, you know, morally pure. I do not strive towards moral purity. I think that is one of the biggest obstacles for us, and to achieve real results. And I think that we need also to talk about this more, especially among the progressives. Like, why are we doing this? Why? It's like, you know, it's like in the Catholic Church, like you have to hit yourself.
Yeah. And one point there, like, is in the questioning of democracy. In some cases, I think the evidence is also there. In Italy, like 30 years ago, people, the previous generation was way better off than now economically. So there are some real reason of societal concern by the middle class that is feeling that has less possibilities of achieving their dreams than before. Then you can argument if this is due to democracy or to globalization, but of course there are also some concrete facts there why people are upset.
Yeah. So I mean, why aren't we developing? We invented one system, and then we like, yes, we have a system now, and then we started worshiping it. But we need to always, you know, reinvent ourselves and our ways, because society, technological development, globalization is demanding that. And if you do not succeed with, you know, reinventing how you make people participate in the conversation, and you see this very clear divide between political parties, how they mobilize, and the younger generation, how they mobilize. It's such a clear divide. And how many political parties are actually asking themselves, do we preserve the system that we have, or do we adopt? They don't have this conversation. They just go into defense mode. All political parties, we go into defense mode, and we try to preserve what we have had because we are so used to it, and people have worked so hard for it, and you know, all of that, instead of trying to be where people are, where the conversation is happening, and to have a really inclusive debate.
I wanted to come back on something you said before about the universality argument, so that we were basically all the same. And I think it was, to a certain degree, very good reaction by the EU a couple of years back with the whole women life freedom movement. But this has also totally vanished, you know. There was a couple of months, big political activity in the European Parliament, everybody talking about it. It faded away. What happened with it on the ground in Iran? Was there any follow-up on this?
Well, I mean, you know that, I mean, at least the European Parliament was pushing for example, for the listing of the IRGC as a terrorist group, so we can cut off the money crane, you know, because many of us know that if you cannot pay for these like men who are working for the corps, then they will lose the loyalty. And this is what should have been done a long time ago. 2 years after demands, it came, because it was the member states that has had to do that. And I mean, I don't know how effective this will be when it comes on the ground, but I hope that it can be really effective. It depends on how they structure it and shape it, but this is what should have happened. And I mean, we all know that during also at the end of December last year in 2025, there was new uprising and people were taking out to the street, and there were massive executions and killings on the streets. And we know that in the prisons now they are having very high wave of executions as well. So, and the internet is cut off. So you really don't have a real insight But the little information that is coming out, it's not so reassuring, unfortunately. The regime and its prolonged arms inside society is having a tighter grip, unfortunately.
And I think for Europe, for us, it's a bit an eternal dilemma, no? Like, interventionist policies have shown not to be too effective. On the other hand, you also don't want to say, whatever happens, I'm not involved. So where's the right balance?
Well, I think that addressing the issue with IRGC and having the sanctions, because they violently broke international law and human rights. I mean, we all know that. Would have been a very good step 2 years ago, and it would have weakened the regime rather than going full-fledged, interventionist, as you said, because it has not succeeded in many cases. In some cases it has, but not in many. On one hand, and on the other hand, what we should have done is provide a dialogue platform for the Iranian opposition, very structured, so they can form a path forward. Nobody wants to actually really help the Iranian opposition, so they can organize themselves and get their political agenda together. They are very fragmented.
So basically, it would have been a platform set up with the help of third countries to help the opposition mobilize.
Exactly. And, helping them with the internet access and helping them, but above all, to come together on a path forward, because now they are split. So if I was in Iran and my Iranian opposition outside, they cannot agree, I'll stick to the bad thing that I know, rather than the maybe good thing that I don't know. So we should have helped the Iranian opposition to come together, facilitate a conversation with clear aim, so they can form. I am not saying that we should form the way forward for them, but they should have that. But we should have facilitate the platform so they can sit together and have this dialogue.
You already said there's very little that we know due to the lack of internet access, but the little that we do know, also now after the US intervention, what's your view how the situation evolved within Iran after this war?
Well, I mean, the signals I'm getting is that the regime is getting a tighter grip on the population, unfortunately. And it's so much easier to unite against an outsider,
So you see
who is bombing
direct
you.
consequence of the...
But of course, because I think one of the reasons of the protest was the economic situation in Iran, which was very bad for the Iranian citizens. But then after the US intervention, then the regime can just blame the US for the situation of the country. And switching from Iran to Iraq, the process of democratization in Iraq, do you see some concrete results there?
Of course. I mean, Iraq is like a little one. That country, it's not a little country, it's a very big country, by the way, population-wise. Population-wise and rich in natural resources. But, Iraq has never missed an election since the fall of the Saddam regime. Every 4 years, Iraq has elections. Iraq wrote the constitution by elected parliament, and then had a referendum on the constitution with 76% participation. And always have had consecutive elections. Okay, we can also discuss, we can debate this formation of this, what they call the entities, the building entities of the Iraqi society. Like there has to be Shia Muslim, Sunni Muslim entity, there is a Kurdish entity, there is a Turkmeni entity, there's the Christian entity, there's the Yazidi entity, and so on and so forth. We call it the Lebanization, like in Lebanon, they imported that model. And even though that's a negative thing, when you think about democracy, but still, that country never missed an election. And they have a constitution that is written by elected members of the parliament at that time, and it had a referendum. I don't know if there is any other actually country in the entire Arab-speaking region that has that.
Because indeed I find Iraq a very important case, because we always talk about Libya, Afghanistan as failed attempt to change a regime and so on, with the situation which now came back as before as Afghanistan, or even worse as Libya. But you have cases indeed like Iraq or the Balkans where it actually helped. So it's, in my opinion, it's not so black and white.
No, it's not. It's what it should have happened actually, and what could have made the situation even better, if you ask me, if the American intervention in Iraq would have had international backing. It took Iraq a very long time to come on the right path when it comes to its security, because the Americans only thought of getting rid of Saddam and Ba'ath Party. They never thought about what is then the next step in that plan. They dissolved the army, making the Iraqi borders open to everyone. And of course, where there is a vacuum of power, it's going to be filled with something bad, of course. So if the international community was there and it had a legitimacy, and it helped Iraq in securing its borders, helped Iraq in avoiding being the nest for Al-Qaeda at that time, who had like 10 bombs a day in Baghdad, killing in average 100% every day in Iraq. This is what the terrorist organization of Al-Qaeda did in Iraq. Then we might have had a different situation in the entire region now. But there was a very strong will to abort the democratization process in Iraq of some of the neighboring countries, not to forget Iran in that case, because they really did not want to see democratization process succeed, because it will, make them look very bad. If there would have been support, then the process would have gone much, much faster.
But so the democratization of Iraq is more thanks indeed to the Iraqi people and not to the U.S. intervention.
100%. Because 100%. Because it was them who went out, though the terrorists were there killing Iraqis, but they went to the elections. They elected. They did not carry guns to change the government. They demonstrated when they wanted to change the government. They did not, make a civil war. They really listened to that sound voice of not having new war in Iraq. So it was totally up to the Iraqi people. And I will not say the Iraqi political leadership, because at certain points of time, like Al-Maliki, who was the prime minister of Iraq during Daesh, and he gave away basically Mosul, he did not resist even. So not even the Iraqi leadership, but its people who chose democracy, who chose peace, who chose diversity, and who chose to stay together.
One thing is the political will, so the courage to stand up for this. But what were the conditions leading to or a relative success in the case of Iraq? So what were the determining factors?
I do believe that it was the war against Iran that took a toll on the society. It destroyed the nature of Iraq. Environment. I think Saddam killed over 20 million palm trees. Can you comprehend the number? He totally dried out the marshes. The marshes is a natural preservation area. It should have been. For example, European birds who went there during winter for thousands of years. And he totally, dried the area, making people leave. He changed the climate of Iraq. So it what was your question? Sorry,
How come? No, no worries. How come this? This
the
push.
wars,
Okay.
against Iran, the war against Kuwait, that had no people were not agreeing with him. Then the sanctions. I mean, I think that in Iraq, over 200,000 kids died of cancer because of the wars, the chemicals, but there were sanctions and there were no medicine. And they started then this, oil for medicine program, if you remember back in the days. So all of these issues and the oppression of Saddam made people understand that we have to, we cannot once again go to carrying guns. But also the depth of the Iraqi society. It's not a modern state. It's a civilization. The people of Iraq are direct descendants of the Sumerians, the Babylonians, of the Assyrians. I mean, these people are carrying civilization in their DNA. And even if it's very difficult to see today, but there is something inherited there in the social structure of the Iraqi society that it has its depth.
And now coming back to your work in the parliament, from a personal perspective, being a woman in the European Parliament, we talk about all the fights for feminism and so on. Do you see an additional struggle in being a woman in politics, even in the European Parliament?
100%, yes. During our debates about Gaza, when I get angry with the hypocrisy of the members of the European Parliament, they call me emotional. They call me fucking emotional because I call out their racist shit. Then you are called emotional. And they have the audacity to tell me that I am not seeing things clearly and attacking the only democracy in the Middle East, as they call it, and that I am not being logical and approaching that from the right perspective, because it's our values that are at stake. They try to make the killing, they try to justify the killing of Palestinian children like it's a cause for our values, a defense of our values. It's like, what? And you call me emotional and not logical. That is one of the things that always is used against women in debates. I have zero tolerance for stupidity. It's like, okay, I have zero tolerance for sexism. I have zero tolerance for racism. I cannot stand it anymore. I'm 50. I've had my share. It's enough. So using these etiquettes, putting them on me, like, emotional, not rational, or very high heels. I mean, even how I dress is sometimes mentioned. That is the things that a woman faces in politics today in the parliament. And it is always interesting. I always have to, I used to attack as a reaction, but now I try to breathe and, in a more breathable way address the issue.
I like it. And do you have hopes for the future generation of politicians? in not having this argument, like in not calling emotional or like to be more.
Yes, I have, because I mean, I'm so impressed by the younger generation. And sorry, guys, especially the young women. I mean, wow. I mean, they come into the building with the sign "fuck off" on their forehead. I love it. They are not tolerating this anymore. And this is so empowering and liberating at the same time for us who are older. But these young ladies, these young women, these young girls they know what they think, they know what the facts, they have all the arguments, they know that they are well educated, well argumented, and they are not taking a no for an answer. It's like, nah, I don't think, you don't need to agree with me. This is the fact. And they are so, fierce. They take up the space like it's very natural. And I love that, because we, the older generation, we had to fight for that space. They made us believe that there is only one room for the woman around the decision-making table. But these girls
Are you involved in some, let's say, support measures for these young women? Are you trying to actively encourage this?
I try on my social media to encourage women to take more space, to encourage young girls to, apply for the job, speak your opinion anyway. Just you want a purple lipstick, put it on. Just be yourself and take your space. And I tried in the parliament, for example, to raise the issue of representation, because when we were formatting the new parliament, some conservative groups, they just throw away the 50-50 principle that we have when they put forward candidates to the different positions. I try to always, meet with the younger generation when they want to meet, but also having, the possibility to vote remotely, or to have proxy votes, as they call it, for younger
just,
families.
Adopted, no?
Yeah,
The
just
possibility.
adopted. And I fought for it when I was elected first time, back in 2019, because I was pregnant when I was elected. So I wanted to why is my vote missing? Yeah, because you're becoming a mom. It's like, what? Wow, 2019, and it means.
But these still are important battles, that you won. How does it make you feel personally? Like a sense of satisfaction, pride for what you have done? It's something that you carry, within yourself, that you fought for these things and they happen. Or is you just move on the next goal?
I feel the burden of responsibility too much to celebrate the wins I have done. Unfortunately, I do not take the time to rejoice when we win something big. It's like, okay, this is done. What is the next thing? Let's fight. I'm like a bulldog. On the next fight, on the next thing.
On the other hand, it's probably also what made you arrive until here at the end. It's like it's never indeed good or bad, because it always constantly keep your drive.
Yeah, maybe. But I know that I'm bad at celebrating and rejoicing the wins. I know that as a fact, but it's okay. It's okay. I think it's okay. There are so many things that we need to address and we need to do. So, I want. I will celebrate when I'm in retirement home or something.
And let's imagine that at a certain point, you finish your political career. What kind of, let's say, political legacy would you be satisfied with? So what would you need to achieve to be satisfied?
So one thing that I want to say here is I don't consider this as a political career. For me, politics was never a career. I think this is the mistake that many do, that, I want to become member of the parliament so I can change things. And I have realized that you can change things from many different places. You don't need to become a member of the parliament or a politician. So I made that, when I realized that, when that insight came to me, somehow I was free. And no, I don't need to become a member of the parliament. I don't need this, actually. I can do the change. I can be the change I want to be. I can go with an NGO. I can start an NGO. I can go and talk to people. I can knock on doors if I want that change so badly. So for me, being a member of the parliament is a vessel, is a vehicle. It's not the aim. But what I want to leave behind, really, I know this will sound ridiculous, but I want my mom and dad and my 3 children to be proud of me when I feel that I'm done. Because my father and my mother are both political fighters. My dad spent 11 years in political prison, 3 of which he was in solitary confinement. He was alone for 3 years. And my mom moved mountains to protect me. I want them to be proud of the daughter that I became. And I want my children to feel like, okay, mom was away 3-4 days a week of our lives. And we are proud of what she had achieved. And me being away, it was worth it because she achieved this or that. Mm. Actually, it's not about one thing, but the feeling that these people are left with.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure they will, and I'm also sure that... Okay.
With my daughter, who is a pre-teenager, I don't know, or my youngest is like...
Put things in perspective.
Yeah.
Well, so thanks a lot. This has been an amazing episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.